We are back with another Launch Facebook Live, and I'm excited to have two members of our staff join me today for this May meeting, and we're going to focus on our Racial Equity Committee and sharing with our community what that means, what we're working on as a committee. And before I start, though, I want to acknowledge the tragedy that has happened in a variety of communities around us, but most recently yesterday in Uvalde, Texas, with several children unfortunately losing their lives and some adults, and I say at the hand of a child, right? People aren't naming it that way, but it was a young adult that took the life of other children, and that is sad for us. And we've actually been able to share some communications out with our launch staff on how to talk to children that they're working with around this tragedy, some communications for our families, and we will also be putting a statement out to community because we're as an organization, we are deeply saddened with those events. Also today reflects the second year of the murder of George Floyd. And 2 years ago, we were having that conversation at launch and talking about the impact on our community to have that act take place live on camera in front of millions of people around the world. And then also this month is Asian American Pacific Islander Recognition Month. And so we've actually had the opportunity to celebrate some around the cultures and the experiences that our Asian American and Pacific Islander community members, children, families, staff bring to the great work that we get to do at launch. So those are just some highlights that I bring forward. But I'm excited to move us into talking about our Racial Equity Committee. And our Racial Equity Committee formed about 1.5 years ago when I came to launch as a new leader, and our staff began grappling with what does our racial equity work really look like in our organization. And we started talking about becoming an anti-racist, multicultural organization and looking at some tools and indicators and information to help guide us towards that goal. We also determined that it would be helpful to have a subset of our organization really focus in on that work and hold the container of what it's going to take for us to become a multicultural, anti-racist organization and bring the rest of the organization, our families, our staff, our community into that work. And so I have Noemi, who is one of our preschool teachers at our Miller site, and I have Moss, who is a site manager at Montlake Elementary School, and both of them have been in partnership. More recently, we formed this tri-chair of staff to actually lead this Racial Equity Committee. And so Moss and Noemi have been partnering with Allie, who's part of our Human Resources team, and Jen, who is also part of our Human Resources team, was filling in while Allie was on maternity leave. So this tri-chair is slowly forming really well and starting to lead this work and lead the conversations each month with our Racial Equity Committee. So I'm going to let you both share a little bit about that. Would you start with reminding our viewers what the Launch Racial Equity Committee is?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Noemi Mendez. And so our Racial Equity Committee will consist of staff who will lead our process of assessing launch based on the continuum of becoming an anti-racist and multicultural organization. We'll seek input across staff from different sites of the organization, as well as broad families and the broader community as well.
Yes, awesome. yeah, this committee, and we have a nice mix of committee members from the direct service teaching staff to our some program leaders. We have a few leaders from our executive team that are part of this group, and a few members of our administrative staff team that are part of this group. So a nice little mix of people that meet every month, and I think have some good conversations towards our goal. So I would love to hear, why is racial equity significant to the work that we do here at Launch from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons that it is relevant. And I feel lucky too, in that, I joined Launch last August. So for me, I've never had an experience of Launch where we didn't also have a racial equity committee and weren't actively prioritizing that and working around that. I feel like one of the most straightforward reasons is just that children are learning and thinking about race whether or not we try to engage in it with them. And so if we don't choose to actively and consciously engage with that and think about what it means and how it affects us and our students and the communities that we're embedded in, then we are going to be teaching something anyway. We just won't be teaching it in a way that is consciously organized or where we're collaborating and supporting each other in doing that educational work well. And things. We'll be teaching a null curriculum, essentially. We'll be teaching that there are things you're not supposed to talk about or that we don't know how to talk about here. And that's going to have harmful effects on students across many racial and cultural experiences. Both kids learning that their experience can't be talked about, or kids not learning how to talk kindly and clearly to others. I feel like the other aspect is just that we are embedded in so many systems that inform and affect each other. Like, I am a transgender person working in education, and so I also think and talk a lot with students at times about how our experiences of gender affect how we are in the world. And they ask me questions about that, and that's something that I have to be kindly and thoughtfully prepared to do through my role as an educator. And experiences of gender can't be detangled from experiences of things like race and class and cultural background. What it means to experience your gender is really, really contextual. And so in doing racial equity work, I think when it's done well, and I feel like we are doing it very thoroughly and thoughtfully at Launch and trying to build our capacity to do even more, through doing racial equity work, we're also thinking about the holistic fullness of ourselves and our students and their families as people. That we need to acknowledge and understand the role race plays in our lives, and also the role of things like gender, like class, like cultural background, like religion, because those co-inform each other. And we're working with young people as they form their senses of self and how they want to be in community.
Mas, I like how you, what you mentioned about the responsibility that we have to be intentional in supporting what kids are already actively thinking about and talking about, right? Yes. And so, assuming, and we work with kids starting at the age of 3. And so there are some assumptions in society that 3-year-olds don't understand race, right? Or, that we work all the way up to 5th grade or with 12-year-olds, or that, maybe 12-year-olds are, they know about race or talking about race, but not to the extreme that adults are, right? And so I like that intentionality of knowing that they are, and then what is our role in helping to make sure that the conversations that they have are healthy conversations, and that they're understanding the intersectionality of race with all the identities that they bring into this world. And yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes the conversation gets framed as either we're teaching about this topic or we're not teaching about it. Right. And if it's embedded in the lived experience we're all having, and kids are getting messages about it from other places, right, then we don't really have a choice between teaching and not teaching about race. We're either teaching about it consciously and with a plan, or we're teaching through our own implicit biases and accidental or intentional but not well formatted or coordinated actions, because we can't make it disappear from the world. Like, factors of difference and bias are around us, and so we can choose to consciously engage with them, or just sort of flounder through in our own personal ways but not be coordinating organizationally. And between those two, I hope that for a lot of people the choice is easy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm curious that, as you're in the classroom with kids every single day, like you have you thoughts around that significance of racial equity in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, especially, children are so curious every day. They have multiple questions, and just working with the families to answer a lot of these questions, and also providing different materials to seek information as well. And even our teachers as well. We all come from different backgrounds, cultures, even students and families, and just different family structures as well. So it's always nice to have that open conversation and welcome any questions. And if you don't know the answer, always come back to it and let them know it's okay to talk about certain subjects. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, so talking more about rec, what are some of the opportunities or internal events that are on the horizons for this committee?
I'm excited about the possibilities. We're still in relatively early stages on a lot of fronts, but we just started having some more in-depth conversations about budgeting and planning for the upcoming year. And so that's involved thinking about what kinds of professional development can we bring to support staff? What kinds of organizational-wide events or celebrations can we potentially have during the year? And so I know some of the things that we're thinking about are potential staff or community field day elements, getting more resources that can be used for the committee so that we can enrich ourselves and be even better prepared to spread out and share particularly useful, teaching materials or educational tools for us to other staff. Noemi, do you have other things that you want to make sure we note about the upcoming events or possibilities for the rec?
Yeah, and just networking with staff in the community and families is, to see, to provide feedback as well, and to use that feedback to collect all this data so we can address the underlying, issues and bring it to light, and also, as you said, bring different resources.
Well, one of you be willing to share about the videos that the committee recently?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the reminder, Angela. One thing that committee members did was we went through this great resource called the Awake to Woke to Work framework, which provides a lot of really good, thorough, thoughtful definitions of terms that are helpful to know and to think about when you want to have collaborative conversations about racial equity, because so often in topics that can be emotionally fraught, sometimes people will be talking past each other without meaning to, and having a good shared understanding and shared language can make a big difference in establishing group norms when we're talking about those topics. So we worked to make a series of short videos. Folks worked in teams of 2 or 3 to record videos that expanded on definitions of key terms from that framework. So, concepts like talking about what equity even is, or what is white supremacy, what are those things and how do they affect us in our work? And so those are in a sort of a middling stage now where we're editing things together, but we hope for that to be a resource that can be shared with staff during onboarding or during events or trainings potentially. And we're also thinking about in the longer term, maybe editing or organizing a version that we could share out more broadly and have available to the broader community that interacts with Launch.
Yes. Noemi, were you gonna add anything?
I think Moss summed it up. It was so much fun making the videos, and it was great to see everyone else's work and how they all collaborated together. Again, it's inclusion, it's collaborating, it's connecting, it's networking with people that we work with. So it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, and inclusion was one of the terms that got defined, and the folks who worked on that video included some students in talking and sharing their thoughts about what inclusion means to them and what it looks like during launch programs.
Yeah. Wow, that's really exciting. Well, once again, I thank both of you for stepping up to be leaders in this work, and so that you're leading the committee, but then you're also leading by example in our organization, what it looks like to again move towards becoming an anti-racist multicultural organization, making sure that all people, our staff, our children, our families, our community members who represent a variety of identities, that are often marginalized and oppressed are considered in the work that we do, and that the learning is authentic, and so I just really appreciate both of you and look forward to our next rec meeting, which will be in June. So
thank you for all of your leadership on this, Angela, in helping make sure that this is a clear and thoughtful priority for Launch as an organization.
Most definitely.
Definitely. The opportunity, it's amazing. I've never worked for a company that has, dedicated so much time and effort into, sharing this knowledge that is much needed.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to walk the talk, right? There's these buzzwords out in community. Racial equity is a buzzword that a lot of organizations are using and throwing out there. And we have decided that we're going to actually put some action behind it and be change makers and transformational as an organization. So I'm so glad everyone has really leaned in and engaged in that work. So, all right, y'all, thank you for joining me again for our May Facebook Live, and I'll see you back here in June. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.